Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Nahamani Yisrael of Nahamani.org. Nahamani, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm super excited to have you on, and what I wanted to do was just read a little bit more about Nahamani so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And Nahamani is an organizational development consultant and senior webmaster at Nahamani.org. She obtained her BSBA from Xavier University in Cincinnati, Ohio, before launching her consultant and communications firm. Nahamani is a certified Icehouse Entrepreneurship Program facilitator. She was featured as Natural Women magazine's top 10 Women of the Year in 2017 and 100 Wise Women of Cincinnati in 2018. Nahamani serves on the board of directors for Bethany House Services and is active in the West End community. Nahamani, are you ready to speak to the IMCEO community?
I am. Thank you, Gresh, for that awesome introduction.
Well, it's easy to give an awesome introduction when you're doing awesome things. So I appreciate you for all that you're doing. And I wanted to hear a little bit more about like your CEO story and what led you to start your business.
I started Nahamani.org. A lot of smaller organizations, whether it be small businesses, not-for-profit organizations, they really struggle to communicate their value to their target market. Most small businesses don't have a full PR staff. They don't have, the technical abilities to do awesome websites. And the organizational development piece, I was seeing a lot of organizations struggling when they get to that 3 to 5 year mark as to how do I sustain this business and turn it into a legacy enterprise that I can either pass on to my children or I can, use that as a retirement fund when I decide to close the business. So being able to help them be able to pivot their business and look at, what's causing problems in your organization and really working to solve those problems really gave me a lot of joy. I love seeing businesses thrive. I love seeing my clients move from, where they started off when we first started working together and they get to the next level and, they're being featured in magazines and doing all these great things and then seeing the business continue. I like for my clients' businesses to outlive their founders. So
Yeah, that's definitely the definition of legacy because a lot of people, start thinking, long term like that. But I think, and you might have already touched on this and you might find this with clients that sometimes because they're so close to it, it's sometimes hard to make those organizational decisions or be able to communicate as you spoke to. So you find that happens a lot with clients that you work with?
Definitely. The managers, we're busy. We're running the day-to-day operations. We're trying to satisfy our customers, managing inventory. We're managing people. And it's really hard to kind of take that bird's eye look at what is causing my business to stagnate or not get to that next level. So bringing in a consultant like myself gives them another perspective. And with my background, Xavier University is one of the top business schools here in the region. So having that background and being able to understand what makes businesses work. And a lot of it is really engaging your key stakeholders. Everyone looks at their stakeholders a little bit differently. Of course, your customers are going to be a stakeholder, your employees are stakeholders, but the community around you is your stakeholder as well. So if your business is doing well, then that's bringing traffic to other businesses and just the economic drivers that new businesses bring about. It's very important that we take all of those people's opinions and how the organization should be changing into consideration.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And often it's very, very difficult to be able to do that because like you mentioned, there's so many different stakeholders who have different, not necessarily different visions, but sometimes separate visions. So being able to kind of combine all that and have like one quality vision that an organization can follow is definitely, key to be able to be successful.
Definitely. I agree.
Awesome. And I know I touched on a few things in your bio. What's the Ice House Entrepreneurship Program? I don't know anything about that. What is that?
Ice House is an entrepreneurship training program where we train entrepreneurs to think entrepreneurially. So Eli Mindset is the organization that founded Ice House. And Gary Schoneger, he got with Clifton Tolbert, who was the founder of Stairmaster. Mm-hmm. And Clifton told him the story of his Uncle Cleves. And Clifton's Uncle Cleves, Clifton grew up in the Mississippi Delta in the 1950s. At that time, for a Black man in his teens, it was kind of expected that he would go into picking cotton and working in the fields. And Uncle Cleves saw something in Clifton and kind of took him under his wings. Uncle Cleves owned the Ice House. He was an entrepreneur Black entrepreneur in the 1950s in Mississippi. And he taught Clifton his principles of entrepreneurship. And because of that training that he had at such a formidable age, Clifton went on to do some really powerful things. So what we do is we take entrepreneurs and even people who just want to look at their career a little bit differently. And we teach them to recognize opportunities, to use their network in a more genuine way. It's not just about, what you know, but who you know and how those people can help you get to the next level. We teach people how to take their business ideal and actually vet it and turn it into a thriving business. So we take individuals through an 8-week training program. It's partially online. And so we teach it in person. So we take them through an 8-week training program where, through that process, we're doing discovery canvases. We're encouraging them to go out and talk to potential customers because it's one thing to think, okay, my business is going to do this, and this is the problem that we're going to solve. But when you actually start talking to the people that are facing that problem and understanding what their needs and their expectations are, a lot of times our businesses actually shift, and people don't know that if they don't go out and talk to
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And a lot of times you have to have those conversations and do that due diligence and that kind of self-evaluation for yourself, but also for your business. So it's great to kind of hear about that. And I think I've heard about that actually years ago that I remember. And that's great. I remember, seeing it. So I remember reading about that program, definitely a great program. So it's great to hear that you're helping out entrepreneurs as far as doing that. And now I wanted to ask you for what I call your secret sauce. This is what you feel kind of distinguishes you or sets you apart, or it can be for your organization. But what do you feel like your secret sauce is?
My secret sauce, and the reason I named the organization Nahamani.org is that I'm bringing all of the Nahamani to the table. So I am a strong communicator. I am very passionate about what I do, and I've got a very positive disposition. So even in seemingly daunting situations, I'm able to kind of remain calm, crack a couple smiles and a couple jokes, and help people get through whatever hurdles that they're facing. So when I go into a new business relationship, I'm really able to ease people's fears because I really have found that fear keeps a lot of people from starting a business, growing their business, and going out there and putting everything on the line. I mean, you're risking your time, you're risking your life savings and your reputation when you hang up that open sign. So I'm able to kind of comfort people and help walk them through that process so that they can be successful. And once they break through that fear, what happens is just phenomenal. I have a client, when she came to me, she had one location, just a few clients coming in and working with her on an ongoing basis. She's now got a second location. And now people are reaching out to her to, learn about her business model and how they can, you know, mimic that and grow their businesses. So it's a great process.
Yeah, definitely. You always love to, hear about those wins and those, opportunities that you're helping to support and create, for these entrepreneurs and business owners. And I think sometimes because you go through the day to day, sometimes you can feel like you're by yourself and you're alone. So to even have somebody just to listen sometimes is a great, way to kind of help out business owners, but definitely with your expertise and your experience to be able to tap in and say, maybe you should do X, Y, and Z and provide that. Those services definitely help out a lot too.
Yes, it does. It really does. And when I get to see them winning and on the stage and accepting awards and, we start off and they have this concept and they're like, I need a website. I'm like, I can build a website for you. I've been building websites since 2000. But then actually being able to build a website that doesn't just showcase the business, but actually drives more revenue to their business. It's one thing to have a beautiful website and it's pretty but if it's not driving revenue and it's not growing your business, then it's really just kind of a bragging point. So the websites that I create for people, I do it everything from the user experience. So when a person lands on the website, where do I want them to go? What do I want them to feel? And how can I get them from just being curious about a business to actually purchasing or, closing the deal with the website?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, a huge thing and it kind of touches and ties into everything you were talking about with services, because a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're helping out with in terms of like understanding like what a client, wants to do and wants to accomplish. So just having a website that just maybe is, a fancy business card or something may not necessarily be in alignment with what they're trying to do. So being able to understand that, listen to that and kind of translate that to a website is definitely, something that clients need.
They do, and a lot of people do. And like I said, a lot of startups and small businesses, they don't have a huge budget. So being able to provide them with tools and resources that, there's lots of free resources out there that we can incorporate into their website and can make it just as powerful as, the big companies. That means a lot to them.
Yeah, absolutely. In this day and age, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity out there. So I appreciate you for, open up the eyes to these business owners that need help and being able to provide your services as well. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient.
My biggest hack is networking, and actually turning those networking contacts into relationships. When you go to a networking event, you collect all these business cards and you're wondering, a lot of people, we collect them, we stick them in our billfold or in our purse and we forget about them. But I have a process where I actually go through, not at the event because I want to be engaged in talking to people, but I'll sit down and I'll kind of brainstorm, okay, how does this connection, how can I either bring value to them or how can they bring value to me? And then I'll do a quick, hey, it was great meeting you at this location. This is some thoughts that I think that we could definitely come together and partner on, or we can work together on. And actually starting to build those relationships. Sometimes we meet, I just met Monday with a lady that I had met at an event for coffee. And, we've been sending emails and texts. And it's great for both of us because we're in very different industries and you wouldn't think that we would really need each other as much as we do. But once you sit down and talk to people, and during the event, of course, everybody's talking, there's lots of noise, there's lots of things going on. They usually have some type of agenda. They have a presentation and all of that, but doing it kind of outside of the event, you start to build these really wonderful relationships. And sometimes, you might meet someone and it might be 6 months or a year before the actual spark goes off and say, this is how we can work together. But because I've taken that initiative and I've shot them an email, if they're built into my contacts, they know who I am and what I do so they can send me referrals. And then, 6 months, a year later, I just met with a gentleman that I met in 2017. We talked about doing a website. He didn't have his product quite ready, but he's referred me to other clients that need my services. And it's just that offline conversation, that human factor and being able to interact with people on a human level. And I try to tell people to do the same thing with social media. So we have, a lot of us have hundreds and thousands of friends and connections. But what are we doing with those? Are we just is it just for self-gratification? Or is there actually some way that we can turn those into real world contacts? Meet with someone for coffee, have a little get together. If there's 3 or 4 or 5 of you, and even if people might look at it and say, well, that's my competition, people, there's enough at the table, there's enough food at the table for all of us to eat. You never know what someone else might need, or they might need to outsource some of the work to you, or, those relationships are golden. And I really take those very preciously and I just use them and I open myself up as well. How can I help you? Who can I introduce you to that you might not know that I might have known for 20, 30 years? And people really appreciate that.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, especially in this business world, relationships are everything. And then I love the fact that, you have and you meet somebody at a networking event and then you start to actually figure out how best you can help serve them. Because I think so few people actually do that and take that extra step to connect and then actually say, how can I provide value to you, and even set up a time to speak? Because a lot of times, and I've always learned this, that, a lot of times those opportunities or those potential needs that a person has sometimes doesn't happen within that 10 or 15 minute at the networking event, or even that first coffee chat or the first whatever. Sometimes you have conversation over and over again. Like you mentioned, a year later, all of a sudden you're helping somebody else, or somebody calls you and said, hey, I need X, Y, and Z.
Right. And it's just being a resource, being of service, being, approachable. I always tell people my secret weapon is my smile.
Mhm.
If I'm standing in a crowded room, I'm smiling, people feel comfortable coming up to me. I have a unique sense of humor. So I'm always cracking jokes and, trying to lighten up the room and have it, but people appreciate that because we're all nervous. We're all scared out of our minds.
Yeah.
And don't let the smile fool you. I'm usually pretty be nervous myself.
Yeah.
But just being approachable, and people, they value that, and they're drawn to that. So if people can take anything away, it's, talk to people, talk to as many people as you can about your business and about your products and services, and then stop and listen. And when you listen and get that feedback and that input from others, it adds so much value to what you know and what you do, that it's very empowering.
Yeah, I would definitely, echo that. So definitely appreciate the smile and definitely appreciate the jokes and everything too. So that's always a great thing at networking events. So, and you might have already touched on this, but I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And this is a word of wisdom or piece of advice, or if you can kind of hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
I would tell my younger self to not be to overcome that fear. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but that fear is really, it holds a lot of people back. And I've experienced it. I've gone to, schedule myself for events or opportunities, and then I've talked myself out of it.
Mhm.
And you just miss that opportunity. So, you know, face your fears head on. Don't let them run your day or run your way from opportunities. And just, accept the fact, they talk about it in public speaking. Imagine the entire audience being naked. Well, imagine that everybody else that you're interacting with, they're afraid. They have, we all have personal lives and personal things that we're trying to overcome. But, when you start to deal with people on a human level, you'll start to learn that, we're all a little bit afraid, but I wish I had told myself 20, 30 years ago, to not let my fear hold me back. I think my business, could be way further ahead had I taken advantage of some of those opportunities when I was younger. Had a lot more energy back then. Um, but today, and then I also have to be appreciative. God had to take me through those things in order to use me in the way that he uses me today. So that,
Absolutely.
that would be my nugget to pass on to other entrepreneurs that are, thinking about starting a business. I really want to start a business. I have this great idea. Just go out there and do it. Go out there and try it. If you fail, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly. It's all part of the process in the grand scheme of things. So you can only fail if you stop, I should say, and you got to keep moving forward and take that as a learning lesson. So now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Nahamani, I want to ask you, what does being a CEO mean to you?
It means that I am in charge. It means that I am in control of my destiny, and that as long as I continue to make strategic moves, that I am going to be successful. As a CEO, I have to look at what resources are out there for me. I don't have a large staff. I get interns from some of the local colleges, and I have one or two individuals who help me. But being able to guide those people and give them, as a leader, you have to, set the pathway for their success. And you have to celebrate their success. So being in charge is not just, I'm the boss and I'm running the show, but I'm actually responsible for outcomes for other people. And I take that very seriously. And, I hold myself accountable and saying, okay, what opportunities, how can I use this opportunity? I have an intern right now that's doing social media. And she's taking a lot off of my plate and allowing me to do things like this interview and meet with clients, do more writing, which is something I love to do. So I'm always looking at how can I, other than, paying her, which she appreciates, but also how can I help get her to the next level? She wants to be a blogger. So I'm always introducing her to other bloggers that I know, tagging her in posts where I know that she'll get value from it. But taking her success and taking responsibility for her success is part of my role as a CEO.
Absolutely love that and that perspective as well too, because as you kind of touched on, even from like a networking standpoint, when people go to networking events, they usually have a goal or agenda, and even people that are on your team, they also have that. So be able to dial into that and figure out what that is. You can create as many win-win opportunities as possible. So I appreciate you for doing that. I appreciate you for reminding us of that as well too. So Nahamani, I truly appreciate your time. What I want to do is pass you the mic just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and our listeners know. And then, of course, how best they can find you.
Yes, I definitely want to let people know about my branding blog. So I started a blog. It's called Influencer. And what I do with that blog is I get branding nuggets from different CEOs. I've interviewed GMs of sports organizations, nonprofit organizations, various organizations. I'm actually interviewing a social media influencer on Tuesday.
Nice.
But if people go to my website, which is nahamani.org, it's NAHAMANI.org, and hit the influencer blog. There are tips on there that people can use to further their brand. And we talk about things like using the media as brand ambassadors. We talk about branding innovation. I got to interview Della Rucker, who she has an Ecology is all about innovation. She works with college students and she solves problems for other businesses. But she actually took the time to sit down and show us, okay, when you have a new product and it's never been on the market before, how the heck do you brand it? So we give people kind of those hot topics. Okay, these are, do this, then do this, then do this. So if people are out there in business and they want to further their brand, whether it's for a business, whether it's a personal brand, that branding blog is full of gems. These people are giving away the juice. So I definitely would love for people to come on there. They can definitely follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook as nahamani.org, and then I'm on Twitter and Instagram as Managed Cincy. So if people want to connect with me, I'm very, just as I am in person, I'm very approachable. Hop in my DMs, let's chat, let's talk. If you're local, let's get together and have coffee. If you're not local, who knows, I might be coming to your city soon. And it's so great to come to a new city where I don't necessarily know people, and then to realize, like, hey, I've got some social media friends here, and get to meet them in person. So I'm very open to that. And I love talking to people. I love seeing people win. So I think that would be awesome to connect with more entrepreneurs and like-minded people.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And we'll make sure to have all those links in the show notes as well, too, so that everybody can follow up with you, Nahamani. So I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Gresh, for